Emma had always believed in the power of starting over. Not the kind of start over that came with heartbreak or loss, but the kind you chose, deliberately. She had left her banking job, not in disgrace or frustration, but in pursuit of something sweeter. Baking had always been her refuge. So when she opened Sweet Rye's Bakery, she thought she was finally waking into the life she was meant to live. The first few weeks felt like a honeymoon. Locals wandered in, charmed by her warm smile and cinnamon rolls. The smell of fresh bread at dawn gave her hope. She'd work until her arms ached, but she welcomed the ache. It felt honest. Then things changed. Deliveries were late. The refrigerator malfunctioned twice. One of her 2 employees quit with a vague text. The other started showing up late and staring at her phone. Emma covered every gap, baked until her eyes burned, did the books past midnight. But the customers slowed down. She began to recognize a pattern. They came once, but not always again. One evening, exhausted, she wandered into a tiny second-hand bookshop while waiting for her night bus. A single book on a shelf titled The E-Myth Revisited caught her eye. The subtitle read, "Why Most Small Businesses Don't Work and What to Do About It." She bought it without knowing why. That night, Emma read the first chapter and felt an eerie stillness. The book described her exact situation: a talented technician, her, the baker, who mistook her skill for a business. It warned of burnout, of chaos disguised as hustle. Gerber described her life like he'd been watching her behind the counter. She kept reading. There were 3 people inside her: the technician, who loved baking, the manager, who feared disorder, and the entrepreneur, who dreamed of freedom. But only the technician was driving. She needed all 3. Over the next week, Emma closed the bakery. She lied and told the landlord she had a family emergency. In reality, she was building something she never thought she'd need: systems. She used the book like a Bible. She wrote SOPs for opening and closing, detailed instructions for baking each product. She created a training program, even though she had no new hires. She treated her tiny bakery like a franchise prototype, just like Gerber said. When she reopened, things began to change. The new part-timer she hired, Clara, didn't need to be babysat. She followed Emma's manuals. Customers started returning. The croissants were consistent. The store ran smoother. But then came the first act of sabotage. A competitor opened across the street. Elegant branding, bright colors, artisan pastries that looked suspiciously like her own. Emma was rattled. She found one of her recipes posted on a local foodie blog, verbatim from her baking manual. Emma didn't know how it got there. Only one person had access: Clara. Emma confronted her gently. Clara denied everything. Then a fire inspector arrived for a surprise visit. Someone had reported an anonymous complaint. Nothing was out of place, but the timing was suspicious. Emma felt her systems were being tested. She thought about giving up. That night, she went back to the book. She opened the page she had dog-eared weeks ago. Your business is not your life. It is a vehicle to give you the life you want. She stared at the quote. Maybe she'd made it too personal, too vulnerable. She wasn't just building a bakery. She was building a life raft. Instead of reacting, she innovated. She installed cameras. She added new layers to her systems: security, inventory logs, daily shift reports. She started marketing differently. Not just photos of pastries, but videos, stories, transparency. Then something unexpected happened. Clara came in crying one morning. She confessed to Emma. Her cousin owned the new place. He'd asked her to copy recipes, take photos, report problems. Emma didn't yell. She listened. She offered Clara a choice: stay and earn redemption by helping Emma strengthen the business, or leave. Clara stayed, and she worked harder than ever. The betrayal had taught Emma a deeper lesson. Systems aren't just about efficiency, they're about resilience. 6 months later, Sweet Rye's wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. Emma was no longer behind the counter every day. She hired a full-time manager. Her days were spent designing new seasonal menus, collaborating with local artists, attending business workshops. A journalist wrote a profile about her bakery, calling it the little shop that runs like a dream. But Emma knew the truth. It wasn't a dream. It was a system, a machine built with vision, discipline, and hard lessons. One evening, after the bakery closed, Emma placed that same dog-eared copy of the E-Myth Revisited in a display by the register. Above it, she taped a handwritten sign. "This book saved my business. Maybe it can save yours." And beneath that line, a quieter truth echoed in her mind. Do the work you love, but build a business that works without you. What Emma didn't expect was what came next. The journalist's article went viral. Messages flooded in, letters from young bakers across the country, requests to mentor. Even a local college invited her to speak about small business resilience. One night, after the event, a nervous young man approached her. "I read the book you suggested," he said, holding a copy of the E-Myth. "I thought it was just another business book, but it's different." Emma smiled. "It is." Then he paused. "But I think someone's using the book's advice against you." Emma's face tightened. "What do you mean?" "I work at Sugar Spire, the shop across from yours. My boss has the same manuals. They're just modified." Emma's chest sank. It wasn't just Clara's betrayal. Her entire system had been duplicated. She returned home, furious. Then she breathed. Deep. This was the test Gerber spoke of. The entrepreneur in her had to rise again. She spent 2 weeks reimagining Sweet Rise. Not the systems, but the soul. She introduced storytelling into the customer experience. She added a rotating guest pastry, created by a local or customer celebrated for a week. She launched behind-the-bake videos showing her process, her people, their dreams. She designed a loyalty app, gamified, personal, fun. She introduced scent branding, so Sweet Rise didn't just look and taste different. It smelled like home. Her competitor couldn't replicate that, because soul can't be copied. The following quarter, sales doubled. Sweet Rise opened a second location. Emma didn't work there. She simply designed it, like an architect. Emma visited once a week, silently, sipping coffee while a manager ran everything. She watched her dream breathe without her. As she left, she passed a young girl at the counter, flipping through the old book she'd displayed. Emma paused. "You thinking of starting something?" The girl looked up. "Maybe." Emma smiled. "Start with the book, then build something only you can dream." She stepped out into the golden dusk, her coat folded over one arm, a baguette tucked beneath the other. She looked across the street. Sugar Spire's window glowed, empty inside. Emma didn't feel anger. She felt clarity. What she'd built couldn't be stolen. Not the systems, not the story, not the heart. Because a true business, like a great book, wasn't just copied, it was lived. And the lesson she carried, the one that had once whispered from the pages of the E-Myth Revisited, now beat in her like a drum. Build with intention, grow with wisdom, and never forget, freedom isn't found in doing everything yourself. It's found in creating something that can thrive long after you've stepped away. Emma turned the corner, and for the first time in years, she walked. Not rushed, not burdened, but free.